Hey guys, Millie here. I am coming at you live to do a bump date video. I actually did a couple of these when I was pregnant with Rosen, but it's so funny to look at them because I look so different. It was before I got my teeth fixed and before I did my eyebrows with microblading, and my hair was like super short. I went for like the mom cut before I even had a kid. So anyways, I want to give you the bump date for pregnancy number 2, what I expected, how things went, how things have gone so far, that kind of stuff. So right now I am 23 weeks pregnant as of tomorrow, and things are going good. I am feeling great. Second trimester, as most people will tell you, is much more enjoyable than the first trimester for many reasons. The first trimester in this pregnancy was way worse than with Rosen, and I guess part of the reason for that is because second pregnancies are generally just harder, which I wouldn't have expected. Even with my, education as a doula, nobody mentioned that in all the training that I did and all the experience that I had. It's one of those like insider facts that you only get once you join the club. So there it is. Second pregnancies are harder. My morning sickness was way worse, and that also I was told is because I'm carrying a girl. So if you didn't know, I'm having a baby girl. Super excited about that for so many reasons, and I'm going to be talking a lot more about that. I actually just shot an IGTV video sharing some of my feelings about having a daughter of my own, considering my relationship with my mom. And it was so bad, the morning sickness, that I actually decided to go on diclectin for a little bit of time. I tried B6 on its own first, which I did try with Rosen because I did have morning sickness with him too. It just wasn't as bad as this time. This time was like super debilitating, and it lasted longer as well. I think it lasted until about 15, 16 weeks this time, whereas with Rosen it was over by like 11 weeks. The diclectin definitely did help. It didn't make me feel like perfectly normal, but it did help. It made me not feel so disgusting throughout the day. And I went through, I think, only just one bottle, not even the whole bottle. And then by the time I was coming to the end of it, I didn't need to take it all day, every day to feel good. I just needed it once in a while. So there's that. It was worth it for me, definitely. I tried all the other natural remedies. I'm such a big fan of natural remedies, so you know that I went through all the other options before I decided to. Anyways, I decided that that was the best option for me, and that's what I believe in pregnancy that you should do, as well as motherhood and parenting in general. Do what's best for you, do what works for you in your family, consult your healthcare practitioners that you trust, and go for it. And next up is the wonderful topic of weight gain. This is the bump, by the way, in case you wanted to see. Bump reveal. Okay, 23 weeks, I've gained probably 16 pounds. I was 145 to start, and I'm just over 160 now. I was 10 pounds heavier this time when I got pregnant, than I was with Rosen. And I believe, not that I have to make an excuse for this, but I gained 10 pounds after I stopped breastfeeding Rosen, and I breastfed him up until May of 2019, and then I got pregnant in September of 2019. So there was like a good break there, but I did notice that I gained 10 pounds when I stopped. Probably just like where my body wanted to be after pregnancy and breastfeeding and all that stuff, and also less activity than before I had children. Let's just put it that way. I was not able to keep up my fitness regime in the same way that I did when I had no kids, and that's just the way it is, right? So this time I am hoping to actually gain less. I'll probably end up at the same weight that I was at. I ended up at around 180 pounds. I gained 40 pounds with my pregnancy with Rosen, and I was not unhappy about it at all. It didn't really bother me. I gained, a little more than the recommended amount of weight, but I think that that's totally fine and normal, and I think that the range that they recommend, or the normal range of weight gain, is a little bit too narrow for all the different types of women and body types and metabolisms and all that jazz. So this time around, being pregnant with a toddler, Rosen will be 3 at the end of February, which is this month. So I am chasing around an almost 3-year-old. He was not in any kind of preschool up until a couple of weeks ago. He's never been in daycare. We did have a part-time nanny that would come a couple times a week to help me out so I could work, because I do run my own business, Junior Foxes. It's a Sling company. If you don't know about it, you can find that through my other channels and check that out if you're curious. I'll put a link in the description too. So he is now going to preschool 3 times a week. It's just 2 hours in the mornings, and that's been super duper helpful. And I wanted to, that's him there. I wanted to get him accustomed to going to some kind of a structured, socializable environment before the new baby comes, because I think he was more than ready for that. He was craving it. He's bored at home. I'm not as entertaining as other children can be, and frankly I'm just not that good at like the play-based learning stuff all the time, especially when there's so much to do around the house. So super glad to have Rosen in some kind of childcare now, and chasing a toddler while being pregnant has, I think, helped me gain less weight. But I also did stay more active this pregnancy than my last pregnancy, because I had never experienced it before. The fatigue and the morning sickness of my first pregnancy really just laid me out. Like, I didn't do much at all after my first trimester except for walking. I mean, I went to like a handful of yoga classes, but this time I pushed through and I went to yoga all through my first trimester, just regular yoga. Even when I was nauseous, I had to sit out of a few poses after, you know, having a bit too much breakfast that morning, because I was just feeling so nauseous, and that was fine. But I'm glad that I kept it up, because now that I'm in my second trimester, it's given me the motivation to continue. So I did take a little bit of time off over the holidays with any kind of fitness, but I am doing some light cardio at the gym and just trying to work on building the muscles that I know are going to be most affected. So my glutes are getting some love. I'm doing lots of stretching, and I'm doing a little bit of back muscle building, because I know that breastfeeding is going to really do a number on my posture when we get to that portion. And as for birth plan, moving into that, because I can't think of too much else to cover during or about pregnancy. Oh, one other thing I wanted to say is this time around, I've been so much more relaxed and so much more chill. The first pregnancy, I just finished my doula training right before I actually got pregnant, so all of this knowledge was fresh in my brain of all the statistics and probabilities and the best ways of doing things and blah blah blah. I researched like a maniac, everything. I googled absolutely everything, and I drove myself crazy. So I haven't picked up a book, I haven't googled anything, and I'm very happy about it. I am trusting my midwife. I have a doula who was my doula for Rosen's birth and pregnancy, and I really trust her as well because she is a registered nurse. I'll put the link to my doula. Her name is Angela, and she is the owner of Nutmeg Consulting. She's also a lactation consultant, which is super duper helpful. And yeah, I've just been coasting, relaxing, enjoying the pregnancy instead of putting myself under a microscope. And I think that's normal for a first pregnancy for people to do that, but don't stress yourself out. I mean, I know it's a worrisome time, you're worried about things going wrong, but really the worry and the stress is going to cause you more problems than trying to or thinking you can control whatever may happen. So that being said, birth plan. I don't even want to call it like a birth plan because who knows what's gonna happen, but what happened with Rosen was that I went 2 weeks past my due date with him, and so we had to induce labor, and we induced it with artificial rupture of membranes, which means my midwife broke my water. We tried everything else. We tried a Foley catheter, which is like this balloon that sits on top of your cervix that tries to put pressure on your cervix to make you dilate. And I had that in, I think, for however long you're supposed to. I can't remember if it was 1 night or 2 nights, but I was contracting the whole time. Then it didn't dilate enough, just under enough, and then when they took it out, the contraction stopped. Anyways, I had a million stretch and sweeps. All the midwives in the clinic tried their best to do a stretch and sweep on me because my cervix was so far back. They could, like, my personal midwife, her fingers weren't long enough to reach, so we got the midwife with the biggest hands up in there to try the stretch and sweep. Anyway, the last resort was the artificial rupture of membranes. And based on, you know, how women usually go into labor the first time, I guess medical professionals can judge how you might go into labor the second time. So this time around, I'm not gonna wait a full 2 weeks for baby to come. We are gonna assess the situation at the due date, and if there's no signs of labor starting on its own, then we're gonna get things started in the same way because it worked. I was contracting within an hour of having my water broken. So we're gonna do that again. Yes, the artificial rupture of membranes worked, and I was contracting within 1 hour of my midwife doing that. So the plan this time, I had a home birth with Rosen last time, and the only time that I've ever given birth. And you know, I was really happy with that experience, and I wish I could do it again, but I can't do it because we are moving to Whitby. We're moving in with my husband's parents, and our midwives are downtown, and they will not make the trek all the way out to Whitby, which is about a 45-minute drive with no traffic, but you never know, right? So they are not willing to make the drive for a home birth that far because it's out of their zone. But what I can do, especially if we are going to do the breaking of the waters thing, is that we're gonna go downtown on a predetermined date to the clinic, which is luckily above the birth center. And she's gonna do the rupture there, and if it all goes well, you know, we'll end up downstairs in the birth center. So if we are lucky enough to have that option, we are considering spending the first night in a hotel downtown rather than driving back to Whitby the first night with the baby. My husband's in the background saying, tell them which one. Well, the Ritz-Carlton is our favorite hotel. We got married there. We spent all of our special occasions there. So we thought, why not spend the first night with our baby there, so long as everything goes well, and so long, and like, you know, that we don't have to go up to the hospital or whatever. But anyways, if we do have to go to the hospital, you know, if it's a super emergency, we'll be going somewhere right within Durham region. But if we have, you know, time, and I change my mind at the last minute and I just need to be in a hospital or whatever, we'll go to Sunnybrook. So that will be a little drive as well. But my sister-in-law did it. She had the same midwives as us, and for all 3 of her births, and she went, you know, just straight across the top of the city to Sunnybrook, and it's a beautiful facility. So I am definitely planning to do no medication this time, but if we're up at the birth center, well, down at the birth center, they do have nitrous oxide and the TENS machine, which obviously I didn't have at home. I did have a birthing pool, which I really enjoyed, but I didn't give birth in the water. So yeah, I will definitely be using water, potentially a TENS machine. I don't know about nitrous oxide, we'll see. So those are sort of like my birth guidelines or wishes that I'm going for. My doula likes to call it a birth wish list rather than a birth plan. And that's that. This birth may end up going quicker than Rosen's because my first labor was only about 8 hours from front to back, and second births are usually quicker. So if that's the case, then awesome. I would like to somehow try to prevent tearing this time, which perineal massage is potentially good for. So I have this awesome little tool called the Kegel release curve, which I'm going to be doing a video about as well. That's good for Kegel release, which you can have, you know, tight Kegels that can cause like painful sex and stuff like that, but you can also use it to actually stretch your perineal skin out and do like a massage with oils, as you would do with your fingers or have your partner do in the last 6 weeks of pregnancy. So I am planning to try that. And then another thing that I learned when I was doing my doula training is that if you apply, you know, sort of like a little bit of warm pressure to the perineum as baby is crowning, that can also help with tearing, because I did have to have stitches with Rosen. So I'd love to not have stitches, because that was not that much fun, but no big deal if that happens. So I'm feeling very relaxed about it. I'm not freaked out. I believe that fear definitely increases the experience of pain. There's this thing called the fear pain cycle, I guess you would call it. There's a whole book written about it back in the day that's kind of received a lot more popularity these days. It's called Birth Without Fear. And some of the people that I followed in my first pregnancy were Ina May Gaskin, and I watched, you know, The Business of Being Born, and all those documentaries. I watched everything I could get my hands on. Spiritual Midwifery, the book by Ina May Gaskin, was my favorite book. And we took hypnobirthing classes, and I read the hypnobirthing book, and I would do meditations every night in the bathtub, like visualizations and stuff to prepare myself for labor, which I think really helped. I'm not doing as much meditating this time around, but I plan to start doing that, again, in preparation for Rosen's birth, for this baby girl's birth. And what else am I going to do to prepare? I won't be taking any other classes because I completely honestly, I don't know how much the hypnobirthing class itself helped me, rather than the actual practice of doing the visualizations and meditations and reading the hypnobirthing book on my own. So yeah, I am ready for it. I know it could go any way, but whatever happens, as long as baby comes safe and, you know, I'm fully informed about whatever happens, or, you know, the choices that need to be made, then I am happy. And that's it. That's the birth plan. Do you guys have any questions? Let me know in the comments. Make sure you come follow me on Instagram at MillieFox, MILLIFOX, if you're not already. And make sure you subscribe to my channel, because I'm going to be having a lot more content come out, and turn on notifications so you don't miss anything. Thanks for watching, and enjoy the rest of your day.